wrap up my overall thoughts on component libraries and this whole scenario I had at the beginning, trying to find better layouts and layout components, it got me thinking that maybe component libraries should not be React specific. So the more I'm thinking about this, the more I think HTML5 web components are where component libraries should be. So if you're not familiar with it, HTML5 web components is actually an HTML standard that allows you to create something that's kind of like a React component and using various libraries. In fact, you could use React within an HTML5 web component. But basically the way it works is you register your component essentially with the browser. You say, hey, I have a component, this is its name, and you can kind of write components like you do in React. And like I said, you could even use React to create HTML5 components. But then in your markup, whether it's JSX or HTML, you can just reference that component, the name of the component. So I could create a calendar HTML5 web component called my-calendar and then include that on my page. And then anywhere I want to use that calendar, I just use the my-calendar tag, HTML tag in my JSX or even plain HTML. And so this got me really thinking, like, why aren't we building component libraries this way? We can still use React if it's really the best choice for a specific component or most of the components. But if we built it using, if the component libraries were built using web components, then you could use them in React and Vue and Angular and, basically anything, even just a plain, and it really got me back to full circle because I'm like, oh, if our component libraries were written using web components, I could just make a traditional website with HTML and CSS and regular navigations that's not a single page app. And then when I needed some complicated calendar component, I can just grab the web component and I don't have to care if it's written in React. I could use it in my React single page application, or I could use it in my non-React application and it wouldn't matter. It'd just be this self-contained component that I can plop in here. And I got to think more and more about this, and I'm becoming more and more convinced that this is really the way that we should be doing things. So I don't know how much time I have to do this, but I am planning to investigate this further. I looked into existing HTML5 web component libraries, and there are some. I would say they're definitely not as mature or as developed as, say, Material UI. But I am really, really curious about looking into using Zag.js or something like it to power HTML5 web components that we can use in React or non-React projects. And I think this could be a much better way forward for the future. Instead of locking ourselves into React and the React ecosystem, we use React where it makes sense to use React, but the actual encapsulation of our components is handled by ratified HTML5 standards, HTML standards that are handled by browsers. So it's going to continue being supported. And you can use it in things that aren't React. Essentially, it allows us to use the best solution for the problem. If you listen to this podcast, I care a lot about using the right design, making the right design choices. And that includes using the right technologies. And being forced into using React because React comes with the most developed component library is not what we want. That's not going to lead to a better world. I think it would make way more sense if we invested our component library resources into developing components and component libraries that work for everything and work into the future and are based on standards, and we pool our resources to make them accessible and really robust. That's the future that I'm sort of thinking we should lean towards and work towards. So I'm intending to investigate this further, but if anyone else has already done this or researched it or has opinions, I would love to hear from you. Love to hear what you think. Should we use web components HTML5 web components directly instead of just doing everything purely as React single page applications. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences. It's still something I want to explore and I'm intending to. We'll see. Hopefully we can have some more episodes on this. If it's actually interesting, we'll find out. Maybe I'll start doing it and it's like, oh no, that's completely wrong. In that case, I'll definitely let you know too. But yeah, I'm really curious if you have experienced on this kind of thing, what you think and what your experience has been.